We're going on to 5 weeks of this sipping, aren't we?
Yeah, we're moving into the 5th week. That's for sure. Sipping, yes, we are sipping.
Oh, I'm sipping, baby.
All right.
Are we? Is that going?
Oh yeah, baby.
Oh, Jesus!
Talk it up.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Skimmate Podcast with Terrence and Rich. Today, we are talking from our respective homes because we're still sheltering in place because there's a virus out there that's bad that we have to flatten the curve.
Virus.
So we're trying to talk about not that. I blew it. And
It's
now
okay.
the
It
podcast.
takes practice.
I had a question. I wanted to know how does this sound?
Hey, with that new mic you got there, it is not as bad as you'd think. It picks up just the parts we want to hear, Rich.
I need to chew more with my mouth open for that to be.
Yeah. So Rich has got a brand new mic, and
though
we're remote, so we're hoping that's going to work out well compared to the last time. We're going to learn on this sipping thing, aren't we, Rich?
Yeah, we are. And if somebody else needs a mic, I ordered an extra one by accident that I would sell to you at exactly the price I paid for it.
What a guy.
Or maybe a little less. But I like the mic. It's good. The kit came with everything I wanted. So I'm pretty happy with that.
It sounds good. It sounds definitely really good. And we're going to be doing this, I think, for a little while. So better have the good gear.
Yeah. And so what is this? We're going in like week 5 sheltering in place.
Yeah, it's definitely hardcore on some of us. We're 4 of us total in this household, and it's work from home. You try to find a way to, make the separation. I get up in the morning, put real work clothes on, try to, make the commute in. I kind of miss that, that downtime. There's a little bit of downtime. I only work 17 minutes away from the office, but it's
right.
It's that transition, right, from one thing to another, and it's harder to do when you're at home. I have a special chair in my living room that I go to at the end of the day of work, and that's kind of like my drive home.
Oh, that's nice. The hardest thing for me is remembering to put pants on when I go out.
So I don't even want to know if you got them on right now because I know you'll stand up and we're recording.
I got pajamas on. I had to get out of the house and pick up some stuff today. That like we got chickens arrived in the mail and I had to go get those. And I also got a line on some products that we were looking for. So I went to grab those, and realized that I was in my pajamas.
Do you mask up when you go out?
Pajamas and Crocs.
Okay.
And a mask. Yes, I wear a mask.
I won't even go into a Croc discussion because
Crocs are awesome. They're my vacation feet. I had to put on socks because we were doing work in the yard, and I was like, I don't like socks on my feet.
Oh man!
Because the first thing I do when I go to the tropics is like, woohoo, no barefoot. But anyway, that's exciting stuff, isn't it? This is what people pay for.
Sipping and aquariums, okay? So I saw a poll out there on BRS TV group on Facebook that Ryan put out a day or two ago. It said, as far as reef keeping, how is it affecting you and what's going on? And by a landslide, it was, I'm upgrading. I am nothing has changed, or my tank looks better. Like the top 3 things, and the top 2 were just like a landslide, which surprised me a lot.
Yeah, upgrading surprises me.
Yeah, it's crazy, but hey, I guess you're sitting there looking at something all the time. You're looking at things you can buy, and they're only a touch away.
Well, I guess that's really it. It's for me, it depends on how you get the stuff. I've gone to the local fish store a couple times and done curbside stuff where I talk to them and then they bring stuff out or whatever. And I think that's fine, or as fine as it can be if you're careful. And, having to go in and have people come into your house, and if you need to do anything of an upgrade like that, if you needed something shored up or something cut or built, that would make me really nervous. But I suppose if you're just going from, a tank and a stand to a bigger tank and a stand,
I think it's just, why not? Also, people, a lot of these people are supposed to be working at home, ironically, but I think they're finding time to do other things when they're home.
Well, I think we're coming into some real understanding of the idea that, at work, you really do 2 to 3 hours of actual work. in your 8-hour day, most people. And, and that's always bothered me too, because if I've been known to be a high achiever, and it's like, so if I'm a high achiever and if I get everything
And
done in
modest.
3 hours, sometimes I'm modest. Right now I'm not, because this was a thing. It was like, if I get everything done that I'm supposed to do in 3 hours, it
Yeah.
seems unfair that you, with my boss, get to ask me to do more things for the same amount of money that I'm doing for the as this other person is doing. It's if we're getting paid the same, shouldn't we be on work output, not on time?
No, I just give you more to do and fire them.
If you give me more money, I'm totally fine with that.
No, I just like, hey, Rich, you clearly have more capacity. This person is not living up to the Rich standard. I'll get somebody that lives up to the Rich
Yeah.
standard, and and maybe pay you a little bit more money too. Or if
And
there's something that needs done, you get it done. I mean, that's the beauty of I work in marketing and sales, right? So if we set up a particular goal and you can hit or exceed that goal, how you get there, how many hours, don't really care.
I think that makes the most sense in the world. If you can do your job, if you've done the job, I don't really care what you do to do it or how long it takes to do it, as long as you do it by the time I want it done.
Yep.
Seems
Yep.
pretty straightforward and easier.
So people are figuring
It's
that
like,
out at home
it-
now. So definitely.
yeah, yeah. But whether the bosses are liking that or not is another question. But I think that's going to be part of the new reality. I hope that will come on the other end of this, where we have a more realistic view of our work life balance. And really, do I need to have my butt in that chair for 8 hours? That's really the thing that matters.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
hoping
I
that goes
totally.
away.
In those kind of jobs, I'm totally with you, man. So anyway, we're going to be doing this for a
Yeah.
little while. So I think we're gonna find out what's going to happen. And as far as the aquariums are concerned, I think they're going to be looking a lot better for a lot of people because they're going to be there staring at them all day or
Yeah.
walking by or what have you, and that certainly helps. I know that in our office, Paul, who I just spoke to. Yesterday about his aquarium. He went into the office, hadn't been in quite some time into the office, and he's like, my tank, man, it's just not giving the love that it usually does when I sit right next to it and I see it every day and I miss it. And other people just throw food in when they do, and it's just there's something just different, and it's not doing that great. Yeah,
Yeah.
so the opposite's true as well when we have to be
It's
stuck at home.
it's really interesting here because there's a bunch of work I'm doing on the secret home lab tanks. So the home tank, the display is not really getting that much love. It got a bunch at the beginning, but there's like some corals I keep going, oh, I have to go in and flip those or move those because weird things are happening. I have to catch that Lenardi wrasse out of there because he's going to get too big to catch soon. But I haven't done it because I've been working in this room installing another apex.
Oh, that's the one you said you're gonna to give to me, right?
The Lenardi? The Lenardi's going in that tank up there probably with the anemones because I love him.
Maybe you could
Or it
take
will
this
be a
guy
him.
off. Oh, you can't see him on the camera right now, but I've got
No,
this.
what is he?
Come over here, buddy.
The Heniochus? I don't want your Heniochus. No one wants your Heniochus.
Big
The
old
other
Heniochus.
the other thing that's going on
Look at
for
it, look
us
at him
right
behind
now,
you. Look at that.
I know it's like as big as your brain.
It's like that big.
We've
All
got
right.
this is when the spawning is happening at the coral spawning lab in the city at the Academy of Sciences, and the full moon was on the 7th, so we're on spawn watch, but we can't go in. We don't want to go in. We actually have permission for 2 people to go in, but it doesn't make any sense. We'd really rather not have 2 people in. So we've scaled back all the experiments we were going to do to reasonable things. And we got a camera installed, so we're actually monitoring the spawn. The good camera broke, so now we're on a lockdown camera, which is a little harder to see things that are going on, but it's kind of neat. And Rebecca Albright goes in. It makes much more sense for one person to be there. So she's been going in on the days when we think spawn might happen. And then I've been setting up this system to be able to take fertilized embryos and larvae and grow them up here. So that's what I've been doing. Like I had that tank was all full of Capnella. I had to get rid of all the Capnella and take everything out of that
What's
tank.
the common name for Capnella?
Green, brown ass coral. I don't know.
I don't even know what
cauliflower
Capnella is, so that's why I'm asking.
It's that kind of dark brown soft coral.
Like Kenya tree?
that grows, yeah, like ugly Kenya tree.
Okay.
Unless that is Kenya tree. I don't know. Um, but I take it to aquatic collection sometime, and they look at me like I'm an ass for bringing them coral,
I bet.
because I bring them so much of it, and then
It's like
nobody at the
getting.
local club
It's like
did it.
going to the. It's like going to the luncheon with the green Jello mold, and you like hand it over, and they're like,
Right.
"Yeah, thank you," and you
Thank
just don't want to embarrass
you, man.
yourself or the person you take it. They leave. It's out in the dumpster, like
That's
right
right.
now.
So then I tossed a bunch of the Capnella, because it was like I can't do anything with it right now. And then a couple people reached out to me like, you should have sent it to us for our school program. It's like, oh, okay, well, when it grows back, I'll do that. But right now it's gone.
Even
Sorry.
your kids don't want Capnella. And if it's like Kenya tree,
Nobody,
even they don't want it.
nope, nobody wants it. Maybe it's the same.
Oh,
I don't know combination. So anyway, this is crazy all set up. I went into the city and got a bunch of equipment to stage to be able to grow out the larva.
okay.
And today, we Rebecca was in and she saw the coral setting, which is when the eggs are preparing to come out,
Oh, okay.
which is a sign that a spawn is coming. We didn't get a spawn today. Sometimes they set like the day before, or they start to set and go back down. So the joke is today's the day. Every day we say that, but tomorrow could be the day. And if that happens, Rebecca will do the fertilization because she needs to collect sperm to finish an experiment they started last year. And then I'll zip in and grab a bunch of substrates for them to settle on and a bunch of the larvae. And then the aquarists at the academy will also be trying to raise some as well. So that's really good that we'll have them in 2 locations. So
Cool.
yeah, so I set up the second apex on that system. It's supposed to be for coral spawning, but I'm not going to spawn corals for a while, so I'm not really worried about
Just
that.
gonna rear them, right?
Yeah, so I'm not really worried about setting up a new time schedule or any
Right.
of that stuff or changing the lighting or the heat yet. But I am going through and getting ready for doing that. And it's funny, I found out that in this room, all of the wave pumps need to be on the same apex brain, or I'll go crazy. Even
Okay.
though they'll be doing different things. It's like when I'm in this room looking at the tanks, I do not want to have to switch apexes to turn off a set of pumps. So
Talk
right
about
now,
first world reefing.
yeah, I know it's ridiculous, right? But I mean, hey man, if we're at all talking about reef keeping during a pandemic, I'm going to talk about this. Um, that
Right.
I want the switches to be all in the same place, so I don't have to switch back and forth between screens.
I
And
mean,
I also
speaking
got to,
about speaking
yeah,
about the pandemic thing and reefing, it's yesterday I did control freak Wednesday, and where we look at
yeah,
people's tanks and say what's going on and how's it going and everything. Like one of the first comments that come in, it's like, don't you know that people are starving and dying out there, and you just want to sell your stuff? It's like, no, we're talking about aquariums. Come on, you know?
it's a
It's like,
I agree. It's a crazy thing. I mean, before we did the podcast 2 weeks ago, I was having real problems about are we ethically able to do this? Does this make any sense at all? And it does. I think it's important that we not pretend it's not happening.
right.
Um, but it's also important that we try to, hoe a row to what the new normal is going to be like.
Yeah, I
And
think another way for me to say that is that if you don't try to do these things, you're going to want to break out of this a lot faster than we might be wise to do, right? If you don't find these whatever these new normal things are for you to do, even though it seems kind of strange because you know other people are dying because of it and everything else, you're going to be so stir crazy and out of what is normal for you that you're going to want this to end, and you will find ways to make it end probably before it is prudent to do so.
yeah,
That's my feeling.
yeah. And I'll tell you, I have that same feeling I was talking about before, just on normal days, on regular
Yeah,
days when we're not in a pandemic and I drive by a tent city, I feel like an asshole talking about my aquariums, and I do things to offset that feeling.
sure.
Uh, but being alive is weird, and being alive in a pandemic's even weirder.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no
Yeah.
doubt, especially as you're observing not just obviously our aquariums, but just the human behavior around the planet is and how different cultures and different people and different everything are dealing in this situation. But
You
that's
know what
you
I
know what,
think?
Rich. Let's kill the
Yeah,
COVID thing. How about that?
I got one more COVID thing.
Okay.
One more, because I think
Okay.
because
Just
I'm
one more.
amused by it. I'm
Okay.
unsure how there are any reef keepers that are deniers of the COVID. Did you do a sound effect, you mother scratcher? I didn't even hear it. I'm concerned about reef keepers who don't understand the power of sheltering in place and social distancing and precautions.
Only reef keepers?
Well, since this is a podcast about reef
I
keeping,
know.
let's stick with them. Um, but no, for them, I think I said it the other day, something like, this is the point when the white spots seem to disappear from your fish, and we
That was
all
a good
now know
analogy. That was a good
not to
analogy.
go.
Crypto analogy.
Don't go buy new fish when the spots go away, because it's about to come back unless you've done
Right.
other things. So I get very confused with reef keepers who don't seem to get it. But I guess I get very confused with reef keepers who don't understand ick, and there's plenty of those as well. I'm just not sure how to reach them, and I'm trying.
Got to let a little bit of it go. Just got to
Yeah.
let a little go.
Yeah,
Sure.
well, let a lot go. I mean, I'm talking to you. So, oh, sick burn.
Likewise, okay.
All right, so I talked about what I'm doing here and clean it. Oh, I might
Yes.
get under the house in the next week and
Uh-oh.
do a lot of rewiring.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to do anything that could cause a problem. Like, I'm even nervous about unplugging an Apex because I don't want anything weird to happen, or unplugging a light or a pump.
It's definitely, it's definitely scary. I am right now because I'm home and because of my job, I have to come up with content as well. So it really was a way for me to go, wait a second, I need content. I'm at home. Why don't you fix your own crap?
Yeah, no, I think that's great.
Why don't you stop being the cobbler whose children have no shoes and take care of this crap and make it better, and then film some of it, have some of it on some of your talks or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I've started doing that too. When I do things in the tank, I film a before and an after, and my new website's about to get live, so I'll start
website.
I'll start therichross.com. And I'll start blogging tank stuff there. Because mostly because
this is a revelation. I did not even know this, Rich. You hadn't yet even told me this. You're gonna have a...
The old site was Packed Head. And now we're moving it to The Rich Ross, because why shouldn't it be more about me? I don't know. It seems like a weird marketing kind of thing for a market that doesn't exist, the Rich Ross market. But it's for me, and then I can.
Are you going to cross-link the podcast there, man? Please. Pretty please?
Of course.
I mean, oh, good, awesome.
Yeah.
We need that. We need sponsors too.
Yeah.
Just hint. For those of you who are not watching the video that we're making of this, I am touching the brim of my Real Reef hat. Okay, given to me by those guys over there. I love their product. So it is not an endorsement without me. I have it in my tank behind me.
I have it in my tanks behind me.
So it would be really good form for those guys from Real Reef to pony up, okay, and support the Skim 8 podcast. Just saying.
That's right.
And here, what about you, Rich?
Here I've just got a can of the flake food that I use from PE. It's PE Mice's Flakes, PE Flakes. So Nuri, you should be a sponsor. And check this out. Here's a can of soda. Your logo could be on this can of soda.
This is the most unsubtle way to try to obtain sponsors it could possibly be.
Let me place this product back here.
Exactly.
Let me ask you a question, T.
Yeah.
Are you like me? Do you normally, and when it's not a pandemic, just have backups of all the things that are important to you in your reef? I have a 5-gallon bucket of flake food, and I have a freezer full of 6 months to a year worth of frozen food, and I have extra pumps and extra Trident because I'm an idiot, and I have all these, and I keep those all the time because if something bad happens, I want to be able to fix it right away. As a long-term reefer, are you the same that way? Do you keep a bunch of backups around?
So it just kind of depends on what it is, right? So for instance, for my return pump, I don't have a second Abyss pump because Abyss pumps are very expensive,
Right.
and worth every dollar. Alex, if you'd like to support the Skim 8 podcast.
Alex. Oh God, how do
Um,
we not get Alex? Send us
yes,
pumps. God, we're whores. I love it.
yes, I know. But what I
And
did
but
is
no one is
I,
no one
I
is no one is paying us.
yeah, I know.
I hope this will go
I
on
like the
forever.
I like the Royal exclusive pumps too, and I had one of those on there first, and then I got I needed a little more head pressure and whatnot, so I got the Abyss pump, and strangely enough, they kind of fit the same exact fitting without much more explanation. So now that one sits on the side, with the controller already hooked up for the Red Dragon, and I can just drop it in if I need to because that return pump is so super important. As far as things like energy bars for the tank, right, that control all the stuff, I don't have just a brand new one sitting on the side, but what I do is I organize my gear such that there are things I like to automate or have that I can turn off and on, but they're not critical.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that if I ever have a critical situation, I can just yank that stuff, throw it into a power strip, and throw that energy bar on the critical one that may go out. So that's how I handle those kinds of things. Those are probably the most critical things. If my skimmer goes out, I'm really not. I can find a way to get something. I mean, again, if I'm going to go into, yeah, we have an earthquake and we can't get anything for 3 weeks and it goes out, I'm probably going to be hosed in that regard. But under the normal circumstance things, I don't have backups for every single thing. Now, as far as food, yeah, I have like 6 months of LRS in there and plenty of pellet foods and other nori and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it is prudent to especially in my opinion, the return pump, super
Yeah.
important. You know,
I've got a extra Apex brain that I actually want to
I have that too.
uh, load up my current programming on.
Yeah, well, that's the
That
thing. It's
seems like a
always
good idea, right?
what again from the person who works there, but this would probably never come. It would be great. Wouldn't it be great if it was kind of like a striping on a RAID hard drive? It's
Oh
just like you
yeah.
can just run two of them, and if any of them went off, it would just the other one would just kind of fail over to it. There's something definitely there. But anyway, so I mean, right now my projects that I've got going on, I've got cleaning up my Apex, just total mess downstairs, which is because I'm plugging stuff in and out all the time, and I just didn't care, and it just got
And
to be really crazy.
and when you say downstairs, you mean in your giant crawl space,
Yes, my
right? So I have
I
a
call it the fish
40-inch
cave.
crawl space, and he's got like a freaking mountain side under his house where he's got everything with all.
There's Rich getting
Ridiculous.
size jealous again, man, all the
Man,
time.
you're so much bigger than I am. And and where I was going with that is it doesn't matter where it is. The remote things are difficult to keep organized because they're designed specifically to be out of the way and unseen.
Yeah.
All the little I'll get to that later's adds up eventually, and then you just go, oh, good Lord, sweet.
How did it get like this? Yeah.
Jesus, what have I done?
Yes. And the
So
way
you
to go about it too is I mean, you think like, oh man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's like, no, I just go in and just start ripping things kind of out, right? I mean, it's the only way, right? In a semi kind of organized and logical manner. But yeah, I mean, I put the board up one day, and I'll be doing some content, like I said, on this for anybody who's listening to the podcast. You can see because I've got some cool things I did with the mounting board and some ideas and whatnot. Not all mine, some that I used from one of the presentations at MACNA in our meetup. But I put that up one day, and I just kind of laid the Apex and the energy bar over, right, with all the stuff plugged in, just kind of like let the cables and everything hold it. Like, it's like the most horrible thing you can do, obviously long term, but some people still do long term, and just left it there overnight going, please, just stay alive for one night so I can sleep tonight because I'm too tired to, like, do the rest, right? And then I came back. And then the next day, and I think this is important for people too, is like, don't be overwhelmed. Do a little bit at a time. So I then worked on it for like an hour down there, and I'm like, okay, that's a stopping point. And I came back another day, okay, now I can take the two core pumps that I have over here, mount their mounting, and rewire their wires, and okay, that's done. Now I can move on to the next one. So I'm still only probably of the mounting board thing, maybe 50% of the way done from what I want to do, and I've got some really cool things I'm going to put into that. But I'm also going to be putting sensors, optical sensors that I'm going to drill through in my water tanks so that I'll have basically a high level or stop level, a low level or the bottom level, and then a level where I want water to come on, for instance, in my RO, so that it
That's
runs
great.
when it runs on that and then comes back up. And so I've got a bunch of those different things. I put another wave pump in my display so that I can get a lot more flow. I mean, it just can't have enough flow in a tank once it's full of coral.
Yeah.
And the biggest situation in my tank lately is even with a 18-inch Geo's Reef reactor, when it's half full, even at
Yeah.
6.65 pH level
You just
and
can't keep
200
up.
milliliters a minute, it can't keep up.
Yeah.
It's
Isn't that amazing?
nuts.
At half full. So
It's nuts.
I've got a Bill Wan one, and it's the same thing. Once it hits half, in fact, I have to go look at it. It's like, oh God, I don't want a bigger one, but you know.
It's nuts. I mean, how it is. I mean, I actually did the math on if I were to be able to fill my display up, right, solid with calcium carbonate, at the same density as the Two Little Fishies Reborn comes,
Yeah.
how many calcium reactor loads would it take? And it was like 50 or 52 loads of calcium reactor. And I've gone through like 3 so far since I've had this tank, and I've been running that calcium reactor, and it's even that just surprised me, because that's like, I mean, what is that, 8% or something of the
Yeah,
of the tank
yeah,
is coral.
it
It's a lot.
turns out coral use a lot of calcium.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Turns out.
And
You know what I
surface
also
area too, and it builds on itself, right? That's the thing. Once they start to
Right.
grow, right, it's pie, and everything that takes over in terms of the amount of surface area.
Yeah, it takes over and expands. What did Joe call it? Cubistically? I don't even think that's right, but that's what he says.
Okay.
Cubistically.
Okay.
I don't think that's right, but I like that he says that.
Well, a cube is an exponent, and it is exponentially.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah. I think he thinks it's just filling a cube because
Okay.
it's Joe. It's Joe. So that's good. That's interesting because I was putting the lunar modules on this on the lab system, and I did one day, and ran them down and made sure it was all working, and then stopped, and then 2 days later I did the other set. So I like this idea of doing manageable successes,
Right.
have helped me kind of cope with the situation. I feel useful. I feel like I accomplished something rather than looking at data for viruses and things like that. So
Well, it's just
I'm
not as much
glad
dread,
you're doing all that stuff.
If I thought I had to do it all in one day,
Oh, you would want to do it. Yeah.
I'd never. So I just had to be able to bring my mind around, okay, how can I break it up into smaller bits and do some of these things? So there definitely will be some good content coming out. So
That's great. Great.
So
Great. So I guess we've exhausted that.
yes, I think
About
so.
what we're doing with our tanks. Although I will say,
this program's about, though. I mean,
I'm going to be.
people want to hear.
I started fragging a lot, which is something I haven't done in like a decade.
Really?
Yeah, like on plugs and stuff. Like making frags, because it was like, oh, I've got to chop these up, and I've got all this space behind me now. I can do it, and then I set up for larva, and it's like, oh, that's taken a hiatus, but it looks like I'll be fragging again. Who ever knew that would happen? So I got some frag racks that are hang on and things like that. So it's good. We'll talk
little
about
urchins in that tank.
Yes, we have some little urchins.
Because that's good for the frags too, right? Are you putting frags?
Yeah, I mean, these little urchins they won't be little by the time the larvae have grown. So I don't think I will have little urchins then. But
hey, on that topic, what's interesting for me is I bought an urchin 5 months ago or 6 months ago from Neptune Aquatics. Brought it home. It was probably the body of it was maybe the size of my thumbnail, maybe a little bit bigger, the size of my thumb, right? Little guy. It was a long spine urchin, right? And
yeah,
I got it because I had a pair of Bengai cardinals before that would constantly breed, right?
Yeah.
And
so you wanted a place for babies to hide?
Yeah, I wanted a baby place because I thought it'd be really cool, right? As I'd seen that happen at a couple of wholesalers where they had them in their tanks, and I was just like, it was awesome to see, and that pair left me, and now I've got like 4 or 5 others in my tank that are getting big enough to where I thought they were going to breed. So I'm like, okay, well, I want to do this time. I want to see if I can do it. And none of them have had a had a brood yet, but I put it in my tank like 5-6 months ago, and it was the size of the end of my thumb. And now this thing, with its spines, is the size of a volleyball in my tank.
Yeah.
I'm like, I had no idea it's going to grow that big that fast. I mean, the head is the size of a racquetball now.
They grow really, really fast if you give them enough food.
Okay. What do they
If you
generally eat? Because
if
I
you
had even no
don't give
idea.
them
I mean,
enough
this is
food,
horrible of me to say this, but yeah, I bought this thing and not knowing if it would eat. But everybody I'd ever seen that had them like Cyphus and whatnot, they had them in their tank, and my tank's like his, so I figured they'd find something.
if you don't give them enough food, they don't grow. It's weird.
What
I
kind
mean,
of food?
literally, they said they eat a lot of algae.
That's what I thought.
So it's
Like,
just
they eat the coral
running
and
around.
algae and stuff too, don't they?
Just some of them do. They can definitely chew it up. Whether they actually eat it or not is a question. But I would imagine in your tank there is plenty for a diadema to eat. And diadema are aggressive eaters and aggressive growers. The tuxedo ones, I think that's Milspila. They are a little bit less aggressive in the way they eat. But a diadema is a machine.
It's so amazing to watch too. I know we're a little bit off subject, but hey, it's all aquariums, right? And everybody wants to hear this stuff. I found it. I have one branch that just goes way out right into the tank, and it's got corals all along it. The way you've seen how I've got them mounted on there.
Yeah.
And so it is literally an obstacle course all the way out to the end of this thing. And I came over to the tank one day, and it was at the end, and I'm like, and it's huge, and I'm like, how did you get around all of those corals and get to the end of that branch? And
they are amazing,
wild.
and they can move faster than you think.
Oh, that's true too. I watch them; they're like, you could just see them just moving along.
The diademas move.
Yeah.
And next year I will probably be spawning urchins here because I'm going to need small urchins again. So you'll probably get some urchins from me because I'll have urchins hopefully.
Well, I saw Jamie. Jamie showed me him how that worked and heating the water up, and then they went off and everything. And we did that when I was over in England. It was really cool to watch, to see those things, how easy it was. He's like, yeah, we just heat up the water and
just heat them up.
There they go.
It's like Pornhub for urchins.
Don't know if that one's going to be linked off of Rich's site or it will be that financially viable. But you heard it first. Rich is creating Pornhub for
anybody
urchins.
Who works for Pornhub. You're listening to this podcast. I would do almost anything to get you to sponsor us. I would love us to be sponsored by Pornhub.
I don't think so. I don't think
the happiest person.
We have to keep this channel completely clean. Everything about it, Rich. We got to reach out.
Pornhub is very clean unless you have a premium account, which are free during the lockdown. Which we shouldn't call it a lockdown.
Next subject. Subject.
Now you want to change the subject. Finally, I'm interested in a topic. Okay.
I want to keep.
What's our next topic?
Next topic. Okay, so I think we talked. We kind of went through the whole COVID thing. So I know we've got that still on here. I do want to say a couple of things about the industry and as far as how is it doing, because people don't out there listening. Not all of them are obviously in. Some of them are in our industry. And
you're talking to more people than I'm going to be talking to, or most people in the hobby are going to be talking to. So you actually have your finger on the pulse of it more than we do. So what are you seeing?
So there's a couple of different angles to this. First of all, there's the local fish stores. Then there is the online retailers, and then there
LFS and OLR. Does anyone call them that?
No, nobody does. But
we're doing it now.
LFS, yes.
LFS
and call them online.
OLRs.
That's what they pretty much call it online. And then there are all the manufacturers, and there's some distributors and stuff. But basically, at the local fish store level, you've got, I think, what you're seeing is kind of like really evolution a little bit happening with the local fish stores starting to happen. So if you were kind of a little bit of a weak local fish store, meaning maybe you're not capitalized well enough, maybe you didn't diversify your product line or services and products, dry goods and livestock quite as well, you're going to be in harder hit times right now than some of the other guys. And the guys who had, that were fairly well capitalized, who had a lot of stock, whether it's livestock or dry goods, that had built great connections with manufacturers already and all of these things. Those particular guys are actually doing okay still out there. They're finding a way still to do their business. A lot of them have service accounts that usually are the ones that get them through the dry times, but right now those are even hurting because people obviously don't want people in their homes servicing their aquariums and whatnot. So there's still a lot of uncertainty for a great number of these guys, but I am actually pleasantly surprised on how many of them are doing fairly well. Aquarium City had a picture up about a week and a half ago with the people all social distanced in a line outside their back door.
Is that Aquarium City in Canoga Park?
Yep, that's Canoga Park, buddy.
That's where that was my first job. I worked there.
Yeah, I didn't know you worked there, but I know we both have these common backgrounds. That's where I grew up in Canoga Park. So
when Mike and Scott and Tim owned it.
Okay. Yeah.
Which they don't own it anymore. I don't remember who owns it now. He reached out to me once a while ago.
Yeah.
Or one of the owners. And I love that the place is still there.
It's crazy. It's like 50-some years it's been there, since like 1965 or something.
Yeah.
But, it's got that back alley. That's where the photo was from. And so they were, still taking customers and trying to do what they can do. But so the local fish stores have that. The online retailers, the biggest issue that the online retailers have in early on, there was a lot of uncertainty, so the orders did go down, but then things have picked back up a little bit, and their biggest problem right now is inventory. So, for instance, of our products, places like BRS and Marine Depot and saltwateraquarium.com, Premium Aquatics, Aqua Cave, these are kind of the key online group of guys. They're almost nearly completely out of stock of our products, all of them, not just the most popular stuff, and that's because we're still, trying to figure out what we're going to do and what we're going to supply people and when. So it's been tough on online, but it looks like it's coming back around. The stimulus, I think, is starting to kick in. It started last weekend. Before they even got it, it was starting to be spent, I think.
Sure.
People, like I said, that they're upgrading their tanks or upgrading their products on their tanks. So that's what's happening there. Manufacturers, it's just different all around the country. And, some are able to do whatever they want and others are not doing anything. And some that have to get stuff from overseas, like Europe, if they had good stock of stuff, they'll be fine. But others might have some interruption.
So you're saying that Neptune Systems products are the toilet paper of the aquarium world during a virus pandemic.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I will say that people are pretty dependent on on that on their aquariums. But that's pretty much where it is, and I think the stimulus is
I need to cut you. Okay, I need to cut you off for a second because my headphones are running out of battery. So keep talking. And this should just hopefully this will be easy.
I'll kick up the next segment then, and you can come back in. So anyway, we usually do this thing called Smart Corner, where we talk about products that we think people might like. Usually it's a little gadget or a little add-on or a little additive for your tank. But one of the things I wanted to do in today's episode is to talk about products that just I haven't used. I don't know if Rich has used any of these.
I'm back.
Good. I'm talking about what the next segment, Rich. So usually
Gotcha.
I was telling our audience that we usually do things that we recommend, but I'm gonna
I gotcha.
change it up a little. And these are I want to talk about some products that I've seen come on the market recently that I have not tried myself. So I'm not saying they work or they don't work. Okay. But they just seem a little questionable. And I just wanted to get Rich's take on it and just have a little conversation about it. The first one that I saw recently was something called RTN Stop by Triton Marine, the guys that do the testing and do the multi-part additive kits and whatnot. And supposedly this is some product that you put in your tank and it helps stop if you're getting RTN on your corals. That's as much as I can tell from it. Have you heard about this, Rich?
I have heard about that. I saw a little bit about it when it came out, and I looked into it, and and I couldn't find anything that supported the claims. I don't know if it works or not. I'd love to see something that says it works that I could feel comfortable about going, yes, it works. I mean, this is going to be the same thing I'm going to say
No, I
and have said.
understand.
It's,
Sure.
it's, yeah, if it stops RTN, great. That's an extreme claim, in my opinion, because no one's been able to do that.
Well, first of all, if it's rapid, it's kind of rapid, right? So you've got to
Well,
have something really take effect really
yeah,
quickly.
there's
I mean, that's where I have a little bit of the doubt on this. When you get rapid tissue necrosis, that's RTN, and it's what we get on our SPS corals, and it basically they go white overnight. I mean,
the
literally.
tissue just peels right off and evaporates off the coral, and then
Yes,
you're just with skeleton. And
and it's gone.
we don't know what does that. We're not really sure what causes that. So it's possible that someone, added something to their tank and it stopped it, and they were able to do that several times and get some kind of actual correlation and causation involved in that rather than just a correlation.
I mean, in order to test it, though, you would have to even really know exactly what causes RTN, and isn't that like part of the problem?
Well, I don't think you'd have to. You could show efficacy without knowing that. So if you could
But you have
show,
to test, though.
you know,
You
but
have to create environments where you could make it happen.
well, that would be the best way, right? So anecdote can be very useful if it's repeatable.
Sure. Yes.
So if 10 people happen to get RTN over the course of 3 months and use this product and it stopped it relatively the same way every time after addition,
Mm-hmm.
I would look at it less squintily. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what I say about everything. I look at it squinty if I don't trust it. Um,
Sure.
so that would make me look at it less squinty.
But
I'm not
this
aware
is
of
a
anything
big
like that.
thing, though, right? I mean, this is the reason I called this one out is because it is like acro reading flatworms. It is one of these big things that happens that
Yeah.
is huge, and would be amazing if you could pop a tablet in your tank the minute you saw white happening on one of your corals, and that was it, right?
But stop it.
But it also means to me that even what you're saying about that kind of anecdote, I can't really even use that because I don't even know if it was going to go all the way. Because if I don't know that what actually causes it to happen, right? Then I
Yeah.
have no idea that when the person said that they started getting, RTN, if it was even really RTN, quote unquote,
Well,
whatever that means.
there is all of that, but I'll go back to what I was saying before, which is if 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 a bunch of people who are good hobbyists say this has done something for me. I had RTN, I put this in, and something happened beneficial, and there were several of those. I would be less squinty.
I got it.
And and that's how most of the hobby actually works. There's no, you
Sure.
get
No,
this all
no,
the
I'm
time.
not
People,
asking for a study. I mean,
yeah,
that
no,
wasn't
well,
even my point.
it's not even a study. It's just no one's got money to test anything in this hobby. This hobby is not
Of
big
course
enough
not.
for that really to be happening. So
Right.
we do rely a lot on anecdote, and you know, RTN's a big deal, and it's also one of these. It's like crypto. It's almost anything could be attributed to causing it or fixing it, right?
Yes.
So anything, what tends to happen with things like this is the last thing somebody did to their tank, they tend to think is what made the problem go away. And
Right.
generally forget about the last 2 months of different things that we're trying because nothing happens quickly generally. So it could be everything that led up to this, and it could have nothing to do with the last thing you put in the tank, or it could be the last thing. It's very hard to parse that out. And there's been lots of products that claim to stop RTN
Right.
because of that, because it's very easy to go, hey, if you put this in, it stops. And, a lot of the time, I mean, eventually RTN does stop.
Right. Well,
Sometimes
was kind of my point too. Is like, okay, one coral did it, and then I put this in, and it stopped. Well, because you get RTN on one coral doesn't mean every coral was going to get it either.
That's right.
So it effectively stopped. So that's
Right.
why it's not me trying to diss on RTN by Triton. It's just like, okay, this is one that I think you said it before once. If you make big claims, it requires a lot of big whatever to follow it up, right?
Yeah,
To be able.
that's a Carl Sagan quote. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary
There you
evidence.
go. There you go. And
Yep.
I think when I look at the around acro eating flatworms or RTN or these things, these are the kinds of things that I think require that. But on to another one, because I got another
I
interesting one that I
agree.
think your background and what you're doing with corals and stuff might have some influence on this. Is Flatworm Stop by KZ? Have you heard about this product?
Is that the one that's like who used that? Is this the one that was going around like 6 months ago?
So
Is that
this is
the doctor guy? Is that this
Cortland
one?
Zooked, okay, and so this is one that has come into favor with all of the boutique SPS guys, especially. We've got one at my office, Joe, and it's a product that you dose. It's one of these KZ products that you have no idea what's in it. It comes out of Europe, and it's a magic juice product, and it's supposedly to help you fight off flatworms. I don't exactly know which flatworms. But what people claim it does is it strengthens the tissue of the coral in such a way. I know that's my eyes had the same thing, man.
Am I squinting a lot?
Yes,
yeah, okay.
This is where I know you fall apart on this stuff too. Is where it's not just, hey, I use this and my corals look better, and 80 people said my corals look better. It's like they give the reason why, right? And it's like you use this, and even Ryan from BRS, made these particular claims with that particular product is that it works by strengthening the tissue, and therefore the flatworms don't want it, it don't have as much of an effect on it. And the reason the people use it in the acro circles, right, the boutique acropora circles, according to them, is that it helps base out the corals better. They seem to base faster when you use this particular product.
Yeah, it says it works by making the tissue unpalatable to acro-eating flatworms, and rapid regeneration of, I don't know. Those are I would want to see those
Rich,
supported
you don't have
somehow.
a comment on the palate of acro-eating flatworms?
They generally like Franklin's barbecue. And will only eat acros when they can't get good barbecue.
I'm sorry, when I hear the words make some make your corals unpalatable.
Yeah, yeah, that can just be a technical term. But yeah, again, it's what is it? What is the evidence that supports that?
It may work, and it may do exactly what they're saying. And again, I'm not trying, but it's one of those. You said squinty eyes. I call it cock my head a little like this, and some guys they're swearing by it, and I'm like thinking to myself, man, maybe I need to try this. I like to see my corals base more,
Well,
new corals.
Yeah. If you wait a little bit longer, somebody might do an experiment on it. So what are the people who are saying it works? How are they determining that it's making their corals base faster?
Just their own experience, right? And some of these people do have a ton of experience, mind you. These are
That's
people,
true.
Who are fragging corals and growing corals and looking at every day their corals and understanding what normal is, right? And then when something goes past, or better than normal. So I'm not completely poo-pooing it. I'm looking at it going, maybe this is something here. But I wanted to bring it up with you because I know how you think of some of these things too. And
yeah, I'm not. I guess I am poo-pooing these things, but I'm only poo-pooing because I want them to work.
Right.
Right. I want all these products to work. Man, if I could put something in that would take care of flatworms or would take care of RTN, I'd be thrilled.
Right.
But I wanted. We're back to Sagan, extraordinary claims, and the more specific the claims get, the more squinty I get. Right. So it's like rapid regeneration. I'm looking at the website now of harmed corals as well as increased basal incrustation. All right. What does rapid mean? What does harmed mean? What is the time between the harm and the regeneration? And increased basal incrustation, how much of is it increased over what amount of time? And those are that should be very easy to supply information about that.
Well, especially the basing too is that is definitely one that that an experiment isn't that difficult to put together.
Yeah, all of it. Uh, 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 harmed corals. Well, fragging, it could be harmed. So
Right.
you do a side by side, and one it's got it, and the other
shoot
you
it and
don't
see
do
how it
it.
heals.
See,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I'm always surprised when companies don't have that for
Right.
ones that should be easy. And I
agree. Let me stop you there on 1 second.
Yeah,
The reason
sure.
I totally agree with you on that is because there would be no better, more powerful marketing tool for them to use than to do that on any products. And I've done it before on products in this industry and others, where it's like, okay, you're used to doing this. I'm telling you this is better. So why don't I just show you this and this side by side in something that is that is provable and believable.
So I'll tell you the response that tends to happen, or what people are scared of, is that they always say it's something like this. It's like, well, I can't do a full scientific study.
Right.
And I keep trying to go back to this and go, no one's asking you to do that. I mean, it would be great if you could, but no one's asking you to do that. And in fact, when people come to me and ask me to do studies for them, I don't want to do that, but
everybody's
because
got a price.
It's so much. Well, yeah, but nobody wants to pay for it, which is one of the reasons why it doesn't get done. Time and space, right? And before I would even think about doing a study, it's like, what is the evidence that you have that would make me think that doing such a study is worth doing? And that's all I'm looking for in most of these is
right.
what did you guys see when you tested this? Because I'm assuming you tested it, because otherwise you're just making it up, and then I don't know what to tell you. But what's the evidence that you saw? And so I think people are scared that people are going to say you didn't do a good enough job. And I'd like to shift that and go, we don't need a good enough job. We need an okay job. We need something compelling that gets us to think it did something.
Right. And the fact is that the fact is, again, from a marketer's perspective, right, I would do one of these little tests like you're talking about, even on one of these products, for especially the KZ one, because I think it is a lot more provable real quick of seeing a benefit. I would do that, and I would know that it would, if I did it myself and released it to the public, it would be questioned, rightly so, as, well, they probably did this or that to make it right. But then I would at least go, yeah, but this works, and I know that it works, and I have the confidence it works because I've done this, and clearly you guys don't believe me, so that's okay. I'm going to go pay Rich to basically replicate everything that I did, okay, and come up with the same thing. And then
make it better.
Yeah. You've got so much power, right, in when you do that from a marketing perspective. It does. It kind of blows me away that a lot of these products, they don't do that, and that does raise the skepticism level, right? Because you're like,
right, because why wouldn't they do that? Well, I'm trying to be generous about why they might not do it, but because they're going to get reamed for not doing a good enough job. But I think we need more.
The proof. I just watched
we need more than nothing.
Right. And
right.
And the proof is, I saw a documentary on the beverage wars the other day, and the biggest setback ever for Coca-Cola. Do you know what it was?
It was
Pepsi
people
and Cola, right? Pepsi challenge.
Like me putting the
Pepsi
challenge. The Pepsi challenge. Wow, of course.
Okay, that was the biggest thing.
No one can taste the difference
ever, right? Yeah, worse. They picked Pepsi. It's not that they couldn't tell the difference; is they picked Pepsi, right? And so when you pull that kind of stuff together for your product, right, and show some sort of thing like that, where it's like, whoa, then people take notice. So
yeah.
Anyway, the only other one I had here was coralline in a bottle. And do you think that's possible? We're not talking about the Purple Up.
Not Purple Up. There's a new one called coralline in a bottle that's got a shelf life, and it's supposed to have spores. That could work. I was actually going to look at that one with a coralline specialist, and then all this other brouhaha happened. So that's not getting.
You think it is possible that could work?
they are saying something very different than other similar claim products have said, right? So they're coming at it from a way, and a shelf life makes it seem more credible or more possible. So they said a bunch of things that seems more likely. And so that
it's
one
unfortunate that everybody looks at that
at.
one sideways because of everything else that was out there, right? I mean, that's unfortunate. You know, if they do have a great product, they have to overcome all of those other products.
Yeah, product I. Um, and that's how it should be, though, right? I mean, the product, you should need to be able to say, to support your product doing what it does. I mean, I'm thrilled that people are skeptical about stuff. I'm thrilled that I mean, when I started this, there was some skepticalness to the hobby, but a lot of people were just buying every Mark Weiss product and putting it in their tank, as was I, until I started to see the pattern on it and go, wait, all of these products claim to do the same thing. And if they worked, they would work. But they don't. So I think it's great. And I think it should be hard. When somebody comes and makes a claim like that, they should be able to say, this is why I think it works. And the more of that, and they do that, right? I haven't seen any results from using that product. But that one seems less squinty to me. But it's still, it's parked up here where I park things. It's like it could, but I want to see something that would get me to think that is it. And that's me.
So a good segue here. We got algae and products that do what they say. We do have one that you have used recently that you want to chat about.
Oh, so I use this Marineland. What are they calling it? The Marineland Magnum Polishing Internal Filter. The MMPIF. Which is, so they used to make the Magnum, right, which was like a fluval filter, which was a canister filter that lived outside your tank, and it had two tubes, and it was all the rage in the 80s, which we are not in anymore. And so 5 years ago, I think that's when I became aware of it. I realized, and in that Magnum filter, you could put a pleated cartridge, or you could put carbon and floss. It was very useful. You could do lots of stuff to it. So some smart person went, oh, let's just make that smaller. We'll use a MaxiJet power head on top of it, and it'll all be internal. So there won't be anything outside of the tank anymore. It's a polisher, but it goes in the tank, and you take it out when you're done with it. And you can run it with a pleated cartridge or with carbon and filter floss, and it's great. I think it's the best thing ever. Marineland, I just said your product was the best thing ever. You should be sponsored.
They have deep pockets.
Yeah. So they absolutely are not going to throw jingle towards us because we're idiots. But I've been using these things for a lot. And so the reason I started using them is because I do a lot of tanks with very low turnover. And I only think turnover is what comes from your sump or your filtration back to your tank. It used to be that turnover was for flow, for water movement in the tank. I think that's a bad metric with the new pumps and internal pumps that we have. It just makes more sense to move the water where you want it to be moving rather than forcing it all through the sump.
Correct.
And also, if you put too much past your skimmer is missing it, so your skimmer is less efficient. But that's a decision you can make how you want to run your tank. So I had these tanks, and I got tired of siphoning, and I went, oh, well, here's a product that I can just drop in, stir up the tank, and it will filter a lot of the stuff out, which it does. You can see it right there. It's doing exactly that. Actually, that one's doing something a little bit more. I'm using it on cyano. The tank over there that you can't see right now, when I got back from Palau, it was covered in hair algae. It was like a hair algae crazy town. And and because I really don't think there's much of a connection between water quality and hair algae.
Wow, okay.
I mean, sure there is, but I think trying to control phosphate and nitrate to make algae go away is not something that makes much sense.
Save that for another program because that's good content.
Okay. So what I did was I I manually pulled out most of the hair algae that I could get out myself.
Okay.
I scrubbed everything down with a toothbrush in there. And then there was algae floating around all over the place, right? Wrapping around acros and stuff. I dropped that filter in there and I stirred up the tank a couple more times that evening and then left the pumps on, moving back and forth, changing flow. And then came back in the morning and there was no algae anywhere. It was not wrapped around the acros anymore. It had all gotten undone and sucked into the filter. And I threw all that stuff away. I added herbivores to that tank, and the algae has not come back.
So this
nothing
isn't
else.
like
Nothing else
this
has
isn't
changed.
for like getting the spores out or anything like that, like keeping the reproduction or anything like that. That's not what you were talking about. Microfilters or okay.
Just pulling the algae out. Pulling it. I mean, if there's spores, great. This thing, it's a micron filter, and as it clogs, it'll get more efficient. Fine, but getting the algae out, that's all I cared about.
Because I know people have used them for that purpose, which is to basically, reduce, parasites and other things for fish that might be, rampant in the tank, to bring them down. And
if you
also
can,
for algae spores and things like that, and it's temporary, right? They can just drop it in and then let it go for a week or a month.
Yeah, so I don't have a product that pulled crypto out of your tank, but I will absolutely say I feel pretty good about running the right size micron filter on a tank with crypto to help reduce the amount of crypto that's in the tank over time.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be right
over time. So, yeah, absolutely.
I've not done a study on it.
He did that.
Not done a study on it
in his tank with the same product.
Yeah, so it makes sense. I mean, even diatomaceous earth might even be better on it, but I'm not going to make a product for that because I'm not going to test it. Right, because that's a really hard test to do. So but the algae never came back, and great. So now I've got some cyano in my anemone tank back there, and I put the filter back in, and I just started this yesterday. I basted all the cyano so it would puff up and go out and get sucked up by the filter. I came back today. Some had grown again, so it'll be interesting to me to see if I can get the cyano to abate by doing daily bastings and leaving this filter on. Maybe not. We'll see. Because even if it works, I'm also going to change the carbon on the system, which can help, which is reported to help. So unlike the products you were talking about before, when I say stuff like this, I really try to go, this is the experience I have. This is the reasoning behind it. This is the anecdote that makes me support it. I don't know if it works or not. I'd love somebody else to try it and see what they think. So it might be it was absolutely an easier way to remove algae from that other tank than what other people say to do. And boom, and it was done in a day. I left the filter on it for a week, but it was really done that quick. So
it's a good product for a lot of different things. I think it's good to have in your arsenal because they're not that expensive, are they? Right? They're like $50.
No, they're like $50, and they're easy. They're easy to clean. I think it's a great product for what it's for, and you can spot with it. You can put it in where you want it to, and you can even use the MaxiJet to blow stuff out from underneath your rocks, which is I do that too when I move that around. I think it's a great product. I use it a lot. I like it a lot. I don't have an extra one. I need to get an extra one.
Well, I think we're about the end of our usual time span here, Rich.
Oh,
it's been
let's
a great
be done.
program.
That has been fun.
We've got this is the second one during the shelter in place, the sipping. So it's the sipping skimate podcast.
Sipping skimate podcast.
Oh, there you go.
Podcast
so,
day.
Hope you guys all are enjoying these. We're gonna, we keep trying to do more and more. It is a weird world right now, and we'll try harder.
And we did the last one, and we got a bunch of feedback. Please keep doing these.
Yep.
So that's what made me go, okay, we should keep doing these. People
and if you want to help support,
liking them. Yeah.
If you want to help support, you can go out to patreon.com/skimate. There's also links on the website, and there'll be links in the video that will go out on YouTube and all of that, because that's Rich's job. And we'll get this one up here, pretty soon, I think, Rich.
Yeah, and if you're listening, any feedback you give to us helps us know that this is worth doing. We're enjoying it, so we're happy to
Yeah.
do it. But if no one cares, we don't want to do it. But so the more information we get coming back is really useful for us to keep going. And if you got topics you want us to cover, let us know, because we now have remote setups and not much to do.
Yes,
And-
we do. And so that's
Oh,
your
you're
Skim
playing
It
us
today,
out.
boys and girls. Yeah, I'm playing us out.
Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yep, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and
stay
this
home.
is the Skim8 podcast with Rich and Terrence.
Rock on, everyone.
Almost got it.